Harry, we're going down. I know it. Those are the words that was heard on the black box following the crash of Avianca Flight 702. Very simple words. Larry, we're going down. And the receiver says, I know it. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, you and I may never have anything as phenomenal as averting a plane crash to deal with, but let me assure you that communication in general is responsible for many of the maladies that we experience. It's also responsible for many of the good things that we experience. Communication is the reason that Larry and his first officer went down. This plane crashed, and in the investigation as to why the plane crashed, it was a simple explanation. The plane ran out of gas. What caused an otherwise mechanically sound airplane, two adult males sitting in a cockpit, to simply crash an airplane because it ran out of gas? Let me tell you what I mean. Before they left where they took off from, they had to circle the airplane, the runway, the airport several times because there was a long line of airplanes. Circling several times impacts your fuel. You can imagine it takes fuel to fly a plane. And when they got to where they were going, well, they were not able to land the plane right away. They had to circle the airport several times. These seem like simple concepts to convey, but it wasn't so simple in the cockpit. You see, the people in the cockpit were not English speakers. In fact, the pilot was Colombian and the first officer was Korean. Airplanes work better, as many things do, when it's a team effort. You may think that the only reason that the first officer is there is in case the pilot is capacitated and he can't fly the plane, then someone else is supposed to step in. That's not necessarily so, because the reason that they have those people in the cockpit, it's a team effort. Lots of things go on and lots of communications occur. But here's the problem. Everyone doesn't speak English. Everyone speaks their own language, their native language. But the people in air traffic control, they have the same problem. Some languages have as many as 6 different levels with which to communicate. Levels that begin with speaking professionally, that end with speaking intimately. And other languages require that you adhere to those standards. You see, if you are in a crisis situation and you are from a country where the pilot walks on water like he's God, then you are mandated to speak to him in such a manner. Now, as far as you're concerned, the pilot needs to know that you're short on fuel. The air traffic controller needs to know that you're short on fuel. Now, there are many things that occurred during this airplane crash I'm telling you about. I'm only strategically picking out certain portions of it so you can get the gist of why I think it's a good idea for everybody to speak English. Now, I'm not saying to deny your own language. I'm not saying to destroy your culture, because language and culture are tied together rather tightly. But I am saying, if there was a language that can globalize the entire world, I think English would be it. Many people, many friends of mine, they say they want world peace. Many friends of mine, they say, let's everybody love each other. And how are you going to do that if everybody speaks a different language? So moving right along. Say, for instance, that you are a first officer and you want to communicate to the pilot that you have an emergency situation. Well, you're thinking to yourself, and this is ingrained in you because of the language that you learn, because of the language you grew up with. It's ingrained in you. It's all in your pore to respect that captain and don't say anything to him to make him think that he's stupid. Even though what he's doing may actually be stupid, you are so bound to communicate with him properly, your aircraft will go down. And all you're doing is being yourself. Why? Because English is not a part of your repertoire. You see, in American English, we don't care who you are. You could be the President of the United States. If we don't like you, we see if you can go up to you and say, hey, you know what? You look like a bald-headed fish. You could do that. You could say that, and nobody would be none the wiser. But in Korea, as I said, there are 6 levels of addressing people. In this airplane crash I'm telling you about, 5 seconds before the airplane crashed, the air traffic controller had just told the first officer, hang on a second, don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And when he came back, he gave him an instruction 5 seconds before the plane crashed. The flight officer, being appropriately deferential, what he was trying to do, to appropriately be deferential, to let the air traffic controller know that he was respecting him, he was telling him, oh, by the way, we're running out of fuel, and thank you very much. 5 seconds before the plane crashed. Now, when he did that, the air traffic controller wasn't thinking to himself, wow, I'm sure glad this guy's being deferential. I'm sure glad he's respecting me and giving me my propers. That is not what the air traffic controller was doing. The air traffic controller didn't think there was a problem. The only thing the first officer had to say was, I'm sorry, we can't do that. When the air traffic controller told him to circle the airport one more time, all he had to do was say, we can't do that. We don't have enough gas for that. But being a person who's not an English speaker, being a person who speaks the language where there are 6 levels of addressing, he couldn't do that. And what about you? In your everyday life as you're communicating with people? Because of the event of the last 2 years or so, we find ourselves in a global environment. We find ourselves having Toastmaster meetings with people all over the world. We find ourselves communicating with many people for whom English is not their first language, or whom English may not even be a language. So what are we going to do? What are we going to suggest? In order for us to excel, in order for us to be our best, we must do our part to help globalize the language of English so people will have what some people claim is a level playing field, that they'll be able to have a conversation, that they'll be able to make things happen. And even though we aren't in the danger of crashing an airplane, we might be in the danger of crashing our communication. I certainly hope that the experience of the people in Avianca Flight 902, I hope that gives you an idea of how important it is when you're communicating to be on the same page, generally speaking, but specifically improve your English. If you are not a native English speaker, let me encourage you to watch English movies or even watch my videos on YouTube, and you will get a good grasp of the English language. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.